progress.
Yeah. Start, you know?
Really?
Yes.
That's when go to Jacomundo.
Yes.
Record chase us on.
Hello, Tistele.
Namaste, Sigoni
Shidele.
Lasso Takama, Ching the Chindung at some good land.
Now it's exactly 4:30.
Lasso, yeah, turning at some good number some region.
Yeah, Tistele, everybody.
He lost with that. Katson have the chicken at so jacket is one in some contest with Teta Zundra or Japanese chaining at so Tomaso.
So yeah, Geshe is teaching His Holiness's text on science and philosophy in Indian Buddhist classics, and we are using the second volume on the mind. And Geshe has been talking about the root afflictions earlier on, and we are now in the in the chapter on the Sanyan Tukra. Geshe started already to talk about the first few of the root afflictions, and he's continuing from where we stopped last time.
Geshe Rangrig tingole Javjana Tara, same John Mark Pazidia, and also Mishiateri, Mishiata Nambin and the same John Samlo Nenga Chimbu Shuchi they were attended.
So, just to recap, we said that the six root, I'm just recapping. We said that the six root afflictions are desire, anger, pride, ignorance, doubt, and view. And we are now we have reached ignorance. And Geshe said that ignorance is generally speaking, explained to be a mental factor, which has a connotation of not seeing or not knowing anything.
Mashiwi wangi kangi mombo chi leungore pena chongjam nyenji na ko chongu jima kyon mombo randro at nil mashini remato hakona ke chongu kyongja chong de jaw mare tenaj mota tani joini mota davya tani chona jokinga moni ke tiri mota davya hako mashi pare mato shi sona ke mota tani te nam yanjo mare te tan te naj mi nansel pas te kecha chi shia na yan ko kecha shetan norala teni pasolo potun ro nyota teni tikorete tombo koni potun ro ayo pata tu nyota ro hakona ko she marta te on mishipi wang she ngore su mishipa zede at tenje she jawore.
To explain ignorance a little bit more, Geshe says, we can think of a businessman not knowing, out of ignorance, not knowing how to do the work properly. And so, due to their ignorance, they might not do well in their business. Or someone, again, due to ignorance, might, drive a car and get into a bad accident. Or we say something to another person out of ignorance, and because of that, we get ourselves into trouble. So these are just a few examples to explain ignorance.
What the mark by the other, so what the decision they were Tanam be Junganal, Mark by Monzend, Kerachimbo Ninja, not so, or more times they at the time, Mark Pandala, same John Mishipa, more times they at the Chinchalotans and below ni one's a chegore, there are more times in a country which is in a pen and also. Puyin bikabla ngato samba loptan ronye genla ka ngato le trawa chi taw di gashi go pena nga kala nga no na katsere zini trawa chi taw yona mi chi ko chure lagre ku ta tan rig de ore tan dal ndewa chi ma chi ko gure lagre labti ko lenji gyaw yore kula pa na le sharia chi ore ko non chi shar sare o tenji go non chi ko lo chi la te kona nyala momba zeni tendri chigyani tel maru pangonzo che chita yampu kashi la karla go ham ko ni naktap tu reni de de ni chiro na kal ngano na kaseri la ko so semli che counting mi naktap tu richireni o tendri ga samlo tal mo tam gi maru pa ze ate tendri chire tandang ya pesam jawi na ni tombo ndro ni tal maru pa ndre ayo ma chikta te kona nyala mombi maru pa ze de ate non chi shondro ni tere Motam di maru paziata che kanshi amarani natu tu rendro te samlo tere o samlo tendri chilungo de chegore momba maru panigana.
In the text, we're now, what's the page? I have the ebook, and it's on page 171 that ignorance is being described. And it speaks of two different forms of ignorance that there are. One is the absence of knowing, and the other one is a form of ignorance that apprehends something in a distorted manner. So we can think of, again, of an example, say a teacher is asking his students, so what, 5 plus 5 is, and then, someone, due to, thinking in a distorted manner, as it says here, they come up with the answer, it's 9. And the other one, not knowing what it is all about, they will not be able to give any answer. This is kind of illustrating a little bit what these two forms of ignorance are about. One is the complete absence of knowing, and then another one is to apprehend something in a distorted manner.
Len chuni ja me ni ta tonda de chuni machine semba naktu tu ro chi de ni lo tala maru pa zeni ja de ya to lo po tome tan tanda lopo tome tan tanda chenko lopo yigne ta ki pamba tome chenko lo tome kum chele ja de gore ta tome kum che zita ko tome ta tanda chenko yigne ni ja de gore tani tanda chencho lo ko lengya wori ta le nor ni chencho lo chi chandro ya ji ora ta par de chuta ta tanda chenko pa de chuta chongla chuta lopo chongla da pa de chuta ko so ga de gore mandawa ni chong tong de yagan ke pa korong chongare
okay. So then we have certain Indian masters, they have different notions of or different ways of explaining what ignorance is. So we have the masters Asanga and Vasubandhu, who say that ignorance is rather a mental factor that is an absence of knowing. And then masters such as Dharmakirti and Dignaga and others, they say that ignorance is a confusion that distorts something in a wrong way.
Ta tendigo mandrawa ni ja de gore ta chama ga ta nambi ga na chu shen ke chama ga chum ta sa ta sei na chama ga maru pa ze de ta koi tsawa dingar chamcha tsawa yonko ngoni tende yambal ngonza chipa chikya rin de maru pa ze de ta ngonza che yore kori tsawa zinari dingar ke tsawa zinari chama.
But what is common to all the different tenet systems that we have in Buddhism, all agree that ignorance is the very root of samsara, is the very root of cyclic existence and all the suffering that goes along with it.
What the jigre tandil sama namre kichena ko maru pata tanda peti chenchalotan zanden rugby mantel chochutan semjon ye chamu picher lopara mu pa nyen maru somcher jan maru jan rigma yin zidita ko maru pa zet rigpa ishi chenchalo tata ta jago sonza ko chi non shor dewana ko samlo chik tangi yonye chigla maru pa jago chikkan samlo tangi meni naktu chigla maru pa janan recommendus kar ko semjon chig rawa semjon chi sonza ko samlo tan sa chik da yore zeni pa di chuta kando patere.
Then there is a quote from the exposition of valid cognition which reads, ignorance is distorted cognition because it opposes wisdom, because it is cognitive due to being a mental factor, and because the Buddha said that this was the case. Any other explanation is not correct.
What? This one. What did the Chija de Wodita? Marupa Zedia Gangi Tama Zawa Kanji Rezenata Nachungoni Shenangazo, Gangi Yon at the Nunchi Shorni Kangi Yungu or Nunchi Mashona Kangi Leo Maris Tata Tata, Chego Sound Tata Tata Redona Kokangi Yungumar, the Nunchi Shoati Kangi Yungori. Marupa Zedia Tingazo Samlot and Tupchignita. Sama non-trisho chikuyores. Sonza marupata sama zo matona non-trisho showari. Non-trisho na tijil kange yon warezi. No, non chuk ma ripin jotandra tetere.
Due to ignorance, we don't understand something properly, and we think in a distorted manner, which makes us, commit all sorts of makes all sorts of mistakes, which gets us into trouble and creates all these problems. So that all comes down to ignorance.
Sonzan te namje kanal nipa namba tamchan jiksoch tali kiwaye te mar ter tela chak teli jer dans la sortion ze teni kina nipa nam gen khtim yimberson ze ni tandi shendwa karze wor dinga so nipa namba na so tsama de yu tsawa dagtan zambali chong gore ze wor ta dagtan zambali dit ka dans a mar patel ko wor dans a mar patel chong teni so the tsawa chimbo shu chi chi teni tele teni ndo cha ki teni ndo cha ta pa magasal jer dan ki ni jer dang ma nyomon namba na so ki tele teni kangi mombo chi choni kangi tsama ta ta mu mar pa deni yong yore ze ne pa di churak teni son bare.
And then Chandrakirti also says in the same text on valid cognition that every type of fault arises from the view of me and mine in the perishable collection. That view is ignorance. When it is present, there is attachment to that me and mine, and from that attachment, hatred and so on arise. Due to this, the cause of faults is said to be ignorance. Yeah, so this is, talking about that due to ignorance, we have that strong sense of self-grasping, thinking of me and mine so strongly. And because of that self-attachment or self-grasping attitude, we are attached to things and other people we like, and then we have aversion, hatred, and anger towards anything that we dislike, and so it goes on, and it all boils down to this ignorance.
Last tani tanda romanji pa deda romanji ba lonji a chon nyomo kyo na malin ching so la talip chon lo in ton terne zen te chi chon du tande di pa di chu ro konga sama namje ka tanda tsik ta ton pa di chu ro tsik ti kyo son chete bi yonna te ts yani yandal tel saulo chi tani kora chi kyani chi lota ta namba dingar ka tsawa yon ta ngoni ndani shege yore la ta dingar pa wala ngoni toma maruk pa jikta ti wala yongore ni tani manje she gawe jikta le jarnari tandar montsam naktu tu maruk pa le jarnari counter te me pa zo ala tini dingar sama tsawani zo vi tawshi chi she gore te rotan de dingar chuta ma chona nambal tili la pa chi she ayo mari te nenga zu tendini she gore
ani di pesa di mutu di shipsa bolo
jitsam yanjo saulo tani ngoni tanda maruk pa ni pat pesort jongundu mundu chik saulo tanda yani
So then there's also a quote by Chandrakirti from his Entering the Middle Way, which reads, seeing with wisdom that all afflictions and faults arise from the view of the perishable collection. So Geshe encourages you to maybe look a bit more deeply into these texts that he quoted from this. So this Chandrakirti is entering the middle way, and also the exposition of valid cognition, which here talks particularly about the self-grasping attitude, or in other words, the view of the perishable collection. So there will be coming more about this below, but the main idea is that we have this, all sentient beings have this strong self-grasping attitude, due to which all the faults, afflictions and problems and suffering arise. And by Kasamaripa Mepazo,
Maripa Mepazo to Najini Dinasamaza Mepazo to at Shiriura.
Yeah, and it is explained that if you're able to eliminate the self-grasping attitude, we'll thereby eliminate all the afflictions and the negative actions, and then the suffering that goes along with that.
Also, Tani ta Maripa Tanda Chikam Triamini not to Telejana, that Omicum Chikundo battery, Telejatani, Chinchelo Tomicum Chiku, Tere, Tani Chinchelo television and Jictal Jar, Injectat and Yomotric battery, Ticatini Italian to Nishiri, Tani, Nipa that nyomo changi tetsum zeatre nyomo changi tetsum zeate ndal nyomo chala goya kar zena tatung maruk patele nyomo chagyali ndal ya nyomo chagyari nyomo chagyar goya kar reziti tetsum dal tanda nyomo main ke tetsum yore sonsan dal nyomo chagyari nyomo main ke tetsum de wall konsan chok ja jang de ta di kap ke tetsum nyomo chanzya ke tetsum di zawi nyomo ba chik nang tetsum de kar ja de wore zena maso Natural Drew Kache or Legium Drill Tetum Zaya, Dembajal Tetum Zawa, Ta Sangil Tetum Zawa, Conchosum Tetum Zawa, Tam Mitapata, the Sol Tetum Zawa, or Tenji Tetum Zanki Sound Lotal, Kandi Shepi Tetum Teja Core, Tetum Zenakundo, Topazani, that Apache in Gimares and Conchosum the Pache or Gimares, Sanjay the Pache or Mar Legion, the Pache or Maris and Tetum Zat. Touch it to your Marilas on a Lochtari. Tetum Rochizana and
Okay, so then we come to the next root affliction of afflicted doubt or afflictive doubt. There are two kinds. There's also non-afflicted doubt, but here we're talking about this afflicted doubt that is not sure whether the Four Noble Truths exist, thinking that they're probably not true, or cause and effect karma is probably doesn't exist, or one could also think probably the Buddha or the three jewels do not exist. So this is If one were to think, karma does not exist at all, that would be a form of wrong view. But doubting it, probably, karma, cause and effect doesn't work. Not being 100% sure, that's afflictive doubt.
Penalegen reparche yokere sambi tesom chior te yasholun ror ta yota me sambi chanyam bochior te parche ndikal nyomo naloja tan ta chikti yo parche yo mari sambi samlo chior te nyomo chang tesom ja ya tani roji ja dego ta yana ya tomba ni tawle ina ya tesom chigzana hajang sonun chimbo yezeni ni ya tani jongo nalen tu te tomba ni tesom za ta miso zena parche tomba ni tani jesam ni yenchol savlo tani chiora o te laure rezendu tandi tesom go nyomo chen reziat te kali kapon ro te ziore
so die yensamare die kapon
legend pache yo samare tomba ni zeat pache yo samare tandi riktal nyomo jana mo ke pache yo sare sambata yensamare
ine tomba
ni pache
tomba re di sunam chembo yo
sono chembo yo rezin sheor tesom za kyangzini tandi son re padita man gombolo revisa
So earlier on in the sevenfold division of the mind, we also talked about the fact that there is doubt. That was not the afflictive doubt that we are talking about here. We said that that there is doubt, tending towards the fact. There may be, maybe the Four Noble Truths are correct, or maybe karma is working, and then being kind of even. I mean. It could be either this could be true or could not be true, and then the doubt tending towards the negative. Maybe the Four Noble Truths do not exist. So that's actually what we are talking about here. So assuming, doubting that these things such as cause and effect, the Four Noble Truths, the Buddha and so forth exist. And then Geshe also says that generally speaking, doubting. Having doubt that things exist truly, and thinking that maybe things might be empty of inherent existence, that is generally speaking a very virtuous state of mind. Thinking that emptiness might be true, but here again, afflictive doubt is tending towards the negative, thinking that probably emptiness is a wrong idea. That's what we are talking about here.
Matani tanda nyomo chenze te ate la urto maru patele nyomo che chiaro ta nyomo che maru pale nyomo che chiara tomatela pati tangyo oma pilila ne chiar go mare parchi maru pale nyomo che main ke chi jar mare
kaisa
oma tangyo ilula maru pale nyomo che mato nyomo che main ke maru pa yo mare yana tanda tomi kamche te so nyomo che main ke chi ja de ore chuki danzan dans son den kiri maru pate nyomo che main te chuki danzan son zan nyomo marezi ni tende chi she degre yese nenga che ja me nyen chi chi
This go that di go como assim. Uma tai you for
maru pale ya nyomo chenji maru pa zeni jar golam do
yeah.
nyomo cha main ke maru pa chi yore wezena pa de tanju lan yo mare maru pa sama nyomo chen re
Allo
ngina yo tanda papa tome te so nyomo cha main ke maru pa chi she degre te chuki danzen dan ngo che maru pa chi yora
chuki dansin nyomo
zen nyomo chenji maru pa mari labde oh tindi chi labde ore ta te shap chi konan jikun tindi chi she
according to the highest view, the highest Madhyamika view, the Prasangika Madhyamika, they, coming back to ignorance, they say that ignorance is only afflicted. There's only afflictive ignorance. Whereas then other masters such as Asanga, Papa taught me down. Maripa Markaza.
Chuki danza Maripa Marila Denit.
Chuki danza Maripa Marila.
Ate ina chuji danze kiri maru pachi ora te nyomo cha mari
yeah, so Asanga and other masters, they say that the Dakti Maripa, the ignorance of self-grasping,
nyomo cha mare maru pare,
they say it's ignorance, but it's it's not Kaisa.
Chuchi dancing marupati, marupareta, nomocha mares.
Yeah, it's grasping at the self is ignorance, but not afflictive ignorance.
Sonta tanda marupata le nomocha ying maya nija, tesonta le nomocha yimaya nija.
Yeah, so there is oftentimes, like here in the presentation about doubt, there's this twofold division of having, afflictive doubt, and there's also this non-afflictive doubt.
Tate solo nyomo cha ma yin kitan da ma konsa chok mombo jang do men de tashi e ye me ye samba ta tani sanin namshi kanji yo trombo yo na mena samba ta kasan kamba de sring kamba e ye me ye sambi topa za ta so sama te so re de ora da nyomo chen gi te so mares.
Yeah. Then in the text there are examples of non-afflictive doubt. Questioning whether a person is tashi or not, or His Holiness gives another example about, having doubt about the weather, how the weather would be like tomorrow, or whether a particular house is Tsiering's house. So these are forms of doubt, but not afflictive doubts.
Last tatani, Tripa Nyomo Changi Tawatri, Tawatal Natamba Sheri, Tatanda, Marupata Tawa Nit Patrigondi, Tandanita, Nanchuganani.
So the next of the root afflictions is afflictive view, and there are 5 kinds, and now we are coming to the very root of
now
we are coming to the very root of all the suffering of samsara.
Tani tatawa ngatal karzen jikta zeaz jin tarta chiga lokta zeaz tawan chonzon da srta jin chonzon zeni mandawa ngachewari tan tombo jikta zedeat kaja gore tete ngatsosuri tan ko istawan da yenzeni mombore kon chenjalo ko lo yin da tan chonda ne ki mari pachiori te taran ko istawa chandro gore tan jikta zedeat kanin chingonzi chewori zedi ta kanza ka danzan zedeat le yongore ta
So these 5 types of afflictive views are the view of the perishable collection, the view holding to an extreme, wrong view, holding views to be supreme, and holding ethics and vows to be supreme. So what the first type of afflictive view is concerned is the view of the perishable collection. So that, here this is all about the self-grasping attitude that we mentioned before, and that's the very opposite of holding and understanding things to be empty of inherent existence. Chanta woma ta so dame panda o chi zini tarnya ger degri yon tomba ni jipi tarnya mesa yore kanta nambi dame palamnari tomba ni lamnari kanta koitsa me pa zoki ngoni ta koitsa ngoni dikchatan jikta yimba chi ti dosho zambin zambati ko nyomo pa yi tabyo na menatri
Pena chetak mawata do di pata so dame pa zede achi lagre mga tomba ni jipitar ni te shira jarsa mendu.
So kashi dak me dang
Dame pa ze kantar jikta ga loch chokten zambi zambater.
Ani tawa kasa ming tawa kashi tongpa ni dang dak me.
Sem zambata oma pa tomba ni kelen de gore do di pata chetak mawata so tomba ni lag mari dame pa lagre.
Ine oma
Tonda chikpan gore.
Kasi dukta mawa kangla dak me rang tongpa ni
Je watar.
So we oftentimes hear the expression of emptiness or selflessness, and not all schools use the terms in the same manner.
Chetama tong do di pa dame pa la degris. Senzamba tong oma pa tomba ni la degris.
Chidamao. So the lower schools, Chidamao by Bashika and Sutantra school, they talk about emptiness, and then the mind only, Semsampadang Umapa, they talk about selflessness, and then Tongpanigi.
Tandrik sari parche tanga chotramta mombo chi she de nangon nyondro sari nga chon de jirja chi ne chi ndeshe chi gyab ja kai ti parche de sari mukpa rangi ki nga ta nga yo kanro la mi rawa mi nga ta nga yo nyam de sembi shiro nyomo chan lo tanda jikta lagres tanga chon nabkin de trend de gore dangza ze de andere nga zenita ngal chingjuk ma so ngal chiche ma so ngal chiche ma so zeni nyam ta ba midi kachangal na poche son ngal yakpoche son sambaye yungor ngaso nga zia ti gen de shar de go yana te nga shar ton rawot ngaso samlo chincha lochi resha ta de mandu zeni she de yore bena ti son na nga ra mandu zeni ote she de gore te tindi nga zambin zamba talan jikta lav de gore ta.
So here in the text it describes the view of the perishable collection, and it says it's an afflictive intelligence that focuses, or that focused on me or mine within one's own continuum, thinks of me or mine as autonomously me or mine. So that can be any, this notion of me or mine, we all sentient beings have, we have it with us all the time, whether, it is someone saying something bad towards us, or, someone praising us, saying something nice towards us. We always have this notion of me and mine. Yeah.
So ngoni samlo tanda ngal yak poche ma so ngal yak poche son nga nangundu nga ndrogi nga degi nga nyigi sambi nga ta katren so zupo tan samlo tan sama na kamani samchil nga so chi tsiyen so tsi shokta.
We can investigate it further. We have that notion, I'm going, I'm eating, whatever, I'm sleeping. We have that notion all the time. But try for yourself. Can you actually find this?
Zugpo terendu, samlo terendu. Samlo ina samlo kan terendu. Zugpo ina zugpo kawa terendu. Te samlo chitan showa.
Yeah, think about it when you look for the self. Can you say the self, the sense of me and mine, is it within your body? And if so, where is it in the body? Is it, in your thoughts, in your mind? And if so, where would you be able to pinpoint to what the self or the me, the mine is?
You can
think about this for a minute or two, and then maybe if you have some ideas, you can share it in the chat, or maybe you have an idea.
Where is the I, the me?
Mm-hmm. The ones listening online, do you have any idea where the self is?
It's our Chimbushu or Tomba Nikipachiti, Tangaso Siertan, the Rapandra, which carried, and they mentioned Dingoni Saulotan in Jogo, Tomanil Saulotan, Dame Pal Sound.
That's very much related to emptiness. When we contemplate about the me and mine, the self, where it is, and then we also learn and think about the selflessness. Then that's very much connected with the idea of emptiness.
That's the dinia training mandu tandri. Ta te she de or tanga so nga ze ti katina tsawa chimbochi so zan de yores. Ina pas litan sema nis chashi chil sem lian katsanga so shia go some jipop chashi la so pisaun ndra mandra na tion di sem gna le nga ze chin zu sa kyoni recommendus. Ta lignal ngoni kamba part pombo nga zikta sorwa tande shil chabargani sona yana ngota la pata kamba ta Nantrota Saulotan Kartani Saulo Chitana Pate Sona Naziagan Zuzu Sachi Kyoni Rakamandu Lamnite Lav de Urte, Tomba Zedeat, Dr. Zavitina Tomba Reze de Ur, Tomba Niziat Mugazawani Me Parila Omar.
Yeah, when we talk about selflessness, it doesn't mean that the self does not exist at all. It just means that we, when we search within these 5 aggregates within the body or in the mind, we can't really find the self. But doesn't mean that it doesn't exist at all. But when we talked about these different types of mind, direct perception, velecognizer, we can't really say either one of these is the self, or we look into the body, we can't pinpoint. Or thinking about these 5 aggregates: form, feeling, discrimination, so forth. We can't say this is the self.
Otni not Takishia Najri, Truntari, Tomba, Corcushia, Mandra, Sheti, or Ketoni Tomba, Tertic Tomba, Chima, Tomeze, or the water, Kinza Namjan, Chikichil Pento, Akanya, Resonsa, Katina, Suso, Rapandachi, Tomba Netali, Inchu Munchisaw Tango, Dungaso, Chotole, Katina on the Katina on the Matsundela Saulo Chitanda. So na Zedia, the Shiratzini Mania on the Soso Dollar Chapatan, Controtan. Dans un chapa tanger dans la sobakali tu chonri tanto rezo so the zawa chim do ka kaze chena yomotik sam de ya cheri le ngores so the pizza zawa chonjong ro chin toni ta zini mara manye sona chi longo le shik de chonri do ja rezo or cha ramjing koroma chong do gore ya so da ngaro le na gi gashun ro chin de katina so the dazia ngazia zini ro de rovi kabli ya re Shal Devi Kablina, Tetsi on a Rajang, Sem the Lolozo, teaching Jamba Saulo Tango Mundu, Chasonyo Mozenari, about the control of Pendo Chembushundu, so that you also intimacy de Rochi.
Geshe urges you, each one, you listening online and you sit here, from time to time again, investigate, do this search for the self. And that seems to naturally kind of diminish this strong sense of me and my I, that holds oneself so precious and so important. Searching for this seems to naturally make that self-grasping, lesser, which means that thereby also the afflictions get lesser. And don't tampala tompani tikmato yumari in
Tombaniel Ketan Par Mombochi Tuntari share. Can't loyal Shania Kinza Omata Gaman Pinto Yorezi.
So we have all these different, tenet systems and their different views on, what emptiness entails and so forth. But they are all kind of like stepping stones to get to the final view, as it were. Maybe what emptiness is really about. But knowing these different, views and ideas of these different tenet systems will help us understand, what emptiness is really all about.
Tombo te saulo tani ba ngoni tomba ni ngoni tende yimba ina ndeso le saulo tande ne de ngoni tomba ni ngoni te sha le pento ko yore la nyomo shi chong pento ko so lo le papi kan chercher de pas ta tsinita ani ta de shot tan rikore teli na so mambo chi saulo ta ma gwachi ani zeat tsikchachi so ziat ta pa so kan to chi zi de tan rikyo reze tomba ni ngoni te sharto na ndere de ma to na kala kan so ma chi sharte na pento chemo yore lai
So it will help us to study about these different tenet systems, and like I said just now earlier, to investigate and search for the self, it will help us to, diminish our afflictions and then to eventually derive at a really understanding of emptiness. If we are able to do that soon, right away, it's perfect. But if not, we can slowly work towards that and get to that understanding.
Lasa tene de chire tan jikta zedeat soso ngazi ni shu tsawa chembo ransu ba chi yo samni katina nga sambi samlo den jikta res te chencholo colores ngazi ya tene ransu ba chi yo mares ni te she tsawa chi tan tharta tel te deare tharta zeati ga tanda nga sambi ga ti nga tala mugni tate ki tagbare sam khir chi yor antate shasona ni ki wachma yo mare samni te chi yor Tartata chatta zedeat tasha sonatini yo mare sambi savlo chita yona tate mombol ndo ateson tel cheta laur ay nasha sondit ni chika yo mare zeat lindi tarta gna cheta ter yo taba yinzen ke rikching do dag zeat taba yinzen yo nga cha samal ndo de son sa taba yin watani ni kablo chinchalo rezin tarta laur tel
Okay, so then we come to the second type of the afflicted views or afflictive views, which is the view holding to an extreme. And here Geshe says that, is either grasping at the self to be permanent, which then, continues on forever in that way, as it were, from life to life. And the other view, which is also very common these days, is the view of nihilism, thinking that, only this life exists, and after death, everything ceases. So that would be the extreme view of nihilism, and the other view, which views the self to be permanent, would be the view of eternalism.
Laso tani tartam ko ya che ma tani chiri tani lokta ta nga so mombo she sarti pachin lila le gemre le tachi le gemre le tetsom za ta tetso nyomo cheri tande lokta le on de pedi le gemre yo marizini pe ta che ta konchosom yo marizini ta che sangye yo marizia chancho sem yo mari Niji chimboze yo ma nije merita zenye yo na niji chimboze chi driva yo mari chancho semze chi driva yo ma tomba nyeze gome yo mari zenro ta tenji rik chama lokta zerin ta chik ta che ti ta ki tezo nyomo che ze tezo za ti ni timba ngoti chabar chi ma to ni chi ban chi
Yeah, so then we come to the third of the views, afflictive views, which is wrong view, and we touched upon this earlier on. So here wrong view is saying, really, or thinking that there is no karma cause and effect, there is no bodhicitta, or there is no developing of bodhicitta or developing of great compassion, Buddha doesn't exist, and all these things, really being decided about these things. Whereas earlier on we talked about afflictive doubt, right? That's questioning karma. Probably there's no karma, probably there are no three jewels. But here a wrong view is really thinking, there is no Buddha, there are no three jewels, there is no karma, and so forth.
That's a lot that need to chiri. That Tawan Johnson telling us so there's a lila bochiri, Tanga Janziti, Su Kunga Tawa Samderin, Zota Sogno Tawa Namasam Lamdu, Jiktatan, Gangi. Jiktatan, Tartatan, Lotasam, the Tawa Yanta Pari, 70 Sam Tawa Chiura, or Tele Tawan Chonzazeri, Tawan Chonzaziat. Tombani Topi Tawa, the Tawa Yanta Pari, some net Tawan Chonza Resina Mari, Dikatan Chonzaziat, Tawa Dukachi in Gori. Yeah, the Tawan Chonzazeti, Tawa Yapon Shindo. That Tawan Chonza Karzin and Jikta Yapori, Tarta Yapori, Lota Yapori, and Bitawa Tele Tawan Chonza Lab de Gori.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then next is holding views to be supreme. And what that refers to is basically referring to these first three of these afflictive views. Holding the view of the perishable collection as supreme, and then holding the view or thinking that the view of holding to an extreme is supreme, and also wrong views. Holding wrong views are supreme. This is all. These three types are, included in here. Holding views to be supreme.
Zu the Kongi Tawasam, the Tawa Yapoyan, some day not Tete Tawan Chonsarete, Penangazo, legendary Mary, Chicken, legendary Mary, something or Tatake Yapochi love song, some that Tawan Chonsa Chansar.
Yeah, for example, if someone says, there are no karmic actions. Karma doesn't work, doesn't exist, and thinking, oh, this is a proper view and understanding. So that would be an example of holding wrong views to be supreme.
Tena jikiachma yo mares inichik tawate shiondo tawata tatari kiachma de ketawani yo mares tayon tanda tawan chonza chandore.
Or if someone denies past and future lives, and then thinking, oh yeah, that's a proper view. Then it falls into this category.
Tawan chonza terita tawa tanreti ngaba de chatum datajin chonza reta te kyopa shoni sheyongureta te chuluk shoni mombo chi sheyundu chatum tajin chonza zediati ta ketani indali ya shesur mombo ndu ta pa ko deshon ro te saro chatum zedinga so kyolam songan ro chi ora tat chatum zedi tanga so domba da chatum ze chi wa teri torjik zedi kyolam dere linga ka kyopa terita pena chuluk park sheyundu na chu shena pena menga tembazinin zungal meba ni halun choki ze sajan ro tani yu tersam gol manchoni ransor cheni tata ni nyamlen chegi ze an ro da tani rashi gyam ni nyamlen lsia ta ani so mombo cheni ta mancho peni de nyamlen lsia ta kyobaro ani chu chatam sawale tanji kyoba maram ro tanji le chatam yang ta panza ta tanda kyoba marab ta chol kyoba yang ta panzan ke go tanji tawatal ta chatam tajin chonza la deur dona chatam maim bal chatam tani te tawa yang ta pa ta kyoba dikya ta kyoba yaro le tsini ta chul kyoba yaro le tsini ta so che de ta so yaro marwa ta so yaro tsini choba ta tanji le tsi dia o tanji ta chatam da tajin chonza la deur.
And then the next type is holding ethics and vows to be supreme. That can, refer to certain types of conduct which we find in other certain religious traditions, where they, think that when they stand in the middle of 5 fires, there's a practice apparently like this, which is really boiling hot, and they they believe that by undergoing this pain and suffering of these fires, they will purify or achieve liberation, whatnot. Or one might have the notion by jumping, committing suicide by jumping onto 3, what is it, like a trident, like committing suicide, or Sumba? Or we have this practice of blood sacrifices, right? Killing animals, and then regarding that as a religious offering, which creates virtue. So that would be falling, or examples that would fall into this category of holding ethics, certain ethics, forms of behavior, and vows to be supreme.
Tezkoli la ponjindo ta tenichi ondi tawatal nga tamba shiri tawal nga shi ondi kaso tsanyu chikun nga jamba nga yore tel taminga la gri tawa nga ta taminga chitseni tsanyu momba chilamye yore tenimani tawa nga tel chitseni tsanyu momba chiglamye yore tesol tsanyu momba la gri tsanyu momba iki kar yimbi jimse kar zena konsen dopchepo kanroli marke nyenyo mecha nyenyo nam dopchepo kanrol nyewa sharta yimbi sem nyomomba chipirsu yimbi tsavi nyomomba zegres karla orezeti ta tsavi nyomomba chazena andikore tsavi nyomomba chigzena andikore ndo tsoma jima nyevi nyomomba nyeshata tsavi nyomomba chigli mahi yondegores sonza koso nyebo ya shu yimbala semje mahki pachenke zu yin sonza koso tsavi nyomomba la ores.
And then these root afflictions can be counted. Well, here it says, we have the 5 views and 5 non-view afflictions. The 5 from attachment, anger, pride, and ignorance, and doubt. They're called root mental afflictions because there are no secondary mental afflictions that do not arise from one of these 10. So we have these 5 views, and then right. what else? What continues to read? Also, secondary mental afflictions are secondary to one of these 10, and given that these are the primary causes of the mind being afflictive, they are called root mental afflictions.
Raison.
5 views and the 5 non-view afflictions. Yeah, so it's different ways they are being counted, but yeah.
당아초 셈종 납치나시는 그 control nga yirngi nga gyap chachi tsanyo chikten ro sari tanye nyunyi shita jangir shita la de ore tanye nyunyi shina man ro ja nyi nyunyi shita chiri ngocho chini ro ja na mombo chi geshe che go samari samgundu.
Okay, so we have now covered these omnipresent factors, 5 omnipresent factors, 5 determining factors, 11 virtuous factors, and the 6 root afflictions. And then we come to the secondary mental afflictions. And Geshe will look into each one of them.
단다초 년요 니셔트 야 tsanyo chik ma chetang da ngonzi che deni da tezi kyabar yonye ja de yore ta kar jana ya kyabar ma du pena choa ze de ya to control char tore ze de control char tore de pa che control re lam nan jikore control yimba la kyabar kar yore na control ze de ya ta nga so ta ni ro me binga ndo wa de ni ari ma ta chole control la ni de chokore ina choa ze ya ta ten ji ta ma yimba koso tsikpa zasa tarnie poli yo por tan din chinchili yo pala tel pa lenga ko no panda wo chi chea trading do che wi kap sim control chi ora o tel choa lab jana perchin de yore choa zia te tenit chi.
Okay, so the first one is trua in Tibetan, which is here being translated as rage, and that's a mental factor associated with anger. And Geshe explains it's quite similar, anger and rage. Although rage, rage is something that we experience, when we want to harm someone who's right in front of us. Whereas anger is, having this mental disturbance with regard to someone who's far away. Say here, and the person is in America. So anger relates. It's not necessary with regard to someone who's in front of us directly.
Hakosoma tatini de mandishi gamin ro jakhe moko chi sharam no konza zede ya tanga tsona ki tili ko laura control cha to zen pa sho ko chi mani mandu pa control cha to pa sho ngal dik pon tante na tatangal chi che son zen ni sem tal nyani da jerimbu manya de ya tel konza ze ori ta tik sembal na sa zo ki tik sho chi ro.
And then another mental factor, the next one of these 20 secondary afflictions, is resentment. This is holding a grudge, keep on remembering that, someone harmed us or said something bad to us. So, so keeping that in mind, holding a grudge.
Anin chapazi de azin chapazi at sawa che atrita dino la sunde jando michika tamuga chazo pandobi sambi nyewa michika ngal tse kyonro chi joyung gore kyonjo at pasho ko samlo ya potani ngi nontri ro shoro na ketri nontri shor chaza ke ni bandeni de sasha chi shondi ne samme ni te sawa chendo ko samlo treta kagta lamna andko malam nandko semlo tangi ni pache at kyoni kemelenis man sawa che ora chapa zia tere chapa te su bipi tonje tonda tenji bigore.
Yeah. So the next one, the third one, is concealment. Here it says as a mental factor associated with delusion, and this is when one wants to hide one's own mistakes or misdeeds, wants to keep them secret. When someone points points out one's misdeeds or one's mistakes, that one doesn't want to accept that. One wants to hide them.
Raison. Atin chengu chapa tere tan tspa ze de atian chapa lnjo yore tspa ze de atpa soso mi jambi soso kyon raw lan tan chon soso symbol machini pat nak pon raw chi lab gosani tan karlon de kale on bi tan karlon de lan tspa lab de ore atsun chi yon tspo mando kan.
So the next one is spite. Tsikzup or tsik in Tibetan. Tsikzup. That's tsikpa, spite. When one wants to utter harsh words. It's a negative, negative or non-virtuous intention. It says here it's empowers, or kind of related to rage and resentment. But it's definitely, it's a negative attitude, wishing to say something harsh to someone else.
Last one, tenim cha toren cha to ta yon chang chi ra ta ki nyep kar le chang ne jan la panjo ja panjo ta chi to korsa da zinam ban ro kar yon pita chi so sem makinia chi re de oran cha to pozini ko to Sonam panjo ti so ma shong chi wa te na je sem ba makiwa tini chi li ja ndo cha to se cha to po ke Sika Gonal Pandea Tondea Tona Panzito Mara, Tenidricilla Pegando. I can't sempre Chuchani, the Mijambal, Japanjo Yapo Yana, Zinambanzi Poyana, Toko Sayapo, Shino Yapo, and Tennis, so take a Semba Makia de Diatalo, Tratola. Onina Gagoro.
Yeah, so here, the next one, the fifth of the 20 secondary afflictions is jealousy. This is when we, when someone cannot really bear if others are doing well, be it in terms of wealth, prosperity, or maybe with regard their looks or success, whatever. It's being jealous, and the Tibetan word is tadok, and tadok. Show and the cassette tadok.
Gonal Pan the needs a topper in Mashawachi. Chakatipat.
Yeah, oftentimes these Tibetan words have a certain connotation. I mean, tak means shoulder, and talk. I don't know. Maybe you have a.
Shungo Marte, Mama bought the part to Tatini like Depoching Mundo Atina, December Postopper in Depo Yungoyoma.
Kind of bumping into something. I don't know, but it also has,
That's Samlo Ligercorita, Samlo Tindichano.
Yeah, but it's mainly a mental attitude, more narrow-minded attitude.
Well, Tedichirita, Sena like Rita, Pachina Sol Sena Yo Parwa, Sena Zediatando Chachatores, Itando Pachimbochini, so Chalata, so Zazaya, Zamo, Chanton, and Tom, Milia, Chemata, so young Pecho Tomatrini, Pa, Semba Kumbochini did the Atlas, Sena Lab de Ore.
The next one, the sixth, is here translated as avarice. Another translation is miserliness. I think, in my opinion, it comes a bit closer to the Tibetan Serna, which is, the holding on to something. One is not willing to give something away. It can be anything. Chala yamana.
So young picture ton Zaza Mucha, Tonton Mucha, Kunkum Mucha, Muchazina Hakoya. Zagona Tangi Zanani Pesha Zondo, the Glonio Tani Pesha Zondo, some Biglonio Toyoma. And in Combando Motando, that's also with Chetian Pecho Tanto, me Chetian Pecho Tango. Did you pa? Come there, some little Sena like.
So it can be, in relation to other people, not willing to give something to someone else or to others, but it also it can be, in relation to oneself, that one thinks, if I'm going to eat this, I don't know, I'm losing, spending too much money, or, if I buy these clothes, then, again, I make loss, not wishing even for oneself to spend something.
Then the Tom goes out Martonatas, Sena Chacomarta, Gosachiora, Casapatel Tom Matratel, Sena Chachiore. Pecho Tom Gosatel Tom Matravata Sena, Tom Gosachi the Matona, Sena Chalamaro.
Yeah, so it's having this, unwillingness, as it were, to give something or to spend something, even if it's necessary, actually.
Tadini Jumazia, Juziat, not for Jamal Sherikari, Jumal Inji Carlaro.
Pretensely.
Tate Mare ko Nagian Juma Kenziachi Yohanso.
Like a magician.
Magician. Oh, Tendidor. That's also Yonde Mena, Yondon Shuchini, Jambango Cortan, which Telangalchi, Yonde Yongal Muyosini, Yonde Mena, Yondochini, Mungo Cortando, Casablo Chigle, Gula war. Jamanke the Sopuki Memena, Mendochi Zoyongore, Uki. Oh, Jamankin Zoyongo, Pesha Mena, Pesha Mombondo, Zoyongo. What then I just so Yonde Mena, Yondon, Dochini, Jango Cortan, which Tendig Samlo, Gula.
So next one in English, it's pretense. Gyu in Tibetan, and there's Gyumaken. It's a magician. That's the same word is in that word, magician, who creates all these kinds of illusions. And here pretends is understood to, kind of show off, pretending one has also sorts of great qualities that one is actually lacking in fact.
Laso tini ayuotare japa ayuota jeni kalendrewa chimbo yore yoze de atanga so kyonda ma bindo cheni so kyo yonate ngal kyo mendo ondo cheni tani ndamandra goni mi yonde chimbo chi yindondo yonde chimbo yindondo cheata gyucha de ta kyo mendo do cheata yocha de ore tini kandrewa chimbo o tere
so
and then jambango ko tando ko samlotri nicha
so both the seventh here pretends, and then the eighth here in the text is translated as guile. Can also be translated as dishonesty or deception. That very much is related to pretense. Both is the wish to deceive others. So here guile or dishonesty, deception is wishing to hide one's negative deeds or bad qualities, whereas pretense wishes to show off or show certain qualities that one is actually lacking, and guile or dishonesty, deception wishes to cover, to kind of to disguise negative qualities of oneself.
Watandri yo tan jezeni na bjetini ko gore ta jakpa te kensan rawo chize gore ta jakpa te sosol chi yo na onre shani ngarjar tan rawo ndo chipena sosol zupol ndina konsa chokotni jamdo zupol na san rawo me zupo ya poyo ani zayan ton ya ta so ya pon chi ta ngane shi chi san ranjing ya semba gapon rawo chitni ya ngar count de ni samlo tni chi lab gore lamde te ngarjar tan rawo pon rawo chimundwe.
And then the next one, the ninth, is arrogance, which is quite similar to pride. Thinking, here is explained, or the examples are given that, say one is of good health, or is quite young, or, enjoys good fortune, and that one, has that sense of, being puffed up, being arrogant about one's good fortune or good health and whatnot.
No, last tani chapatre namset nga so gya chachik number manseva zaya chiwa ti do chota number manseva zaya tajala no pache manya sambi sonsem gsamlo chira da number seva zeti yama chigla no pache ko ndal no pache ko lig no pache na ngak no pache na semgo no pache na jan no pache ndo gsamlo chigla namse ze gore kondu charton dawo yezendo ton sambazeti no pache ndo gsamlo tri.
So then the 10th is violence. That's very much associated with anger, and it's the wish to harm others.
No, last ani ngotsa me pata che me pani trenge ngotsa shipata che yo pandro sara ta ngotsa shipazeti ngotsa me pazeti soso jemsen de cheni tata kyopa marab karchena kar hansa yore samni ta kyopa marab samal leka chendo ksamlo chi yora hotel ngotsa me pala de gore Kamajana Karayores, Missena Karayores, Chaldashena Karayores, and Italian Zemto, Soso Jemsan the Chin in Zemto, Kuni Macheva, what's a Mepala. You could chin at the Jontasul and Zembi sound, what's a Shibati imba.
We talked about this before. We had non-violence, the opposite, before, and now we also talked about shame before, and now we come to the 11th of the secondary afflictions, which is shamelessness. And this is basically not caring, about oneself doing negative actions, saying it doesn't really matter whether I steal something or kill some being, not caring about one's negative deeds. That's shamelessness.
Also, tenere chikijago saro takamani mangamato, the Chuare Takare, and Chukandue, try Yona Yo.
Allez, quand Dakaba Yoda me dit Tibetan soir, quand Tidu Sena. Ropa karina niayo mare. ina yang samlok yore samlok di susurang nga ki samlok gyo yore and like maritiwa mare len tak kechi takpa gyugyore samlok di susurangi it was an answer someone gave to his question earlier about where the self is, and it reads, I don't find anything solid. I don't find anything solid, just an idea that changes every moment like a chameleon.
Tatani chiri ngazo dagzea zidena nya kyuni me panro chi pachi tsama la ran chogur ina nam jingaru chogu chi zukpo ta namshi te so main ke ngandra chi yona kyang shani lo lanki ngol te shar de gor
la
lab de
yeah, so it's quite true. So everybody really probably can understand or relate to this, that can't really find the self as such in body and mind, but still we oftentimes have the notion, there's an idea that arises in our mind about me and I.
Ni ma she te pete ji gai nga so saulo na ni phombo te nga yi sam khe chi menyen ro chi kar ze te nga so lakpa ta chun kamba ta chun zu ta so ta nyalo ta so jepo lo to na je kyang cheng do muk ta so sama je yung do ke je gi imbe zi ti da je to ri je gi ze na jepo lo chen chi che kyang cheng do nga yi na chen chi che me nga so sem na le te ni phombo re samba chi ma tong phombo te nga yi samba pa che ya cha ya mi le menyen ro chi andu chen chi che do sama mi jenyen do me sem na us da san ro mi jenyen do nyang jenyen do lo ji kuma ji sama je de nga re sam go yo mar ni cha la chi ma to.
Yeah, I mean, most of us would probably everybody would accept that, nobody would really think that, to say the body, one's body is me, mine, because people undergo surgery and get things, body parts or whatever, or organs replaced. So in a sense, the body changes, but it's not that, while getting, different body parts, or that the self changes. There's still this, solidity, solid self, the sense which remains.
Matan rikpa ta namre nal tang ja yore nga cho na bi nga ta chomba ta ta ngi phombo ta chongzen ro chi ma sa lo tang yo ma res chomba jin ha ko ndo cha la chong ni nga ta cha la chong ni yin sam ngi phombo ta so cha la ro chi ma ga sa lo tang yo ma res kar ze ti je sa ra na je kyang che ja kan do as ma to ngi phombo ta nga yin sam na te je ma ro as te nga ri je yo ma res ni je ma re te mi to je ko ka ra na pe na mi chi li kyo ka cha ni penangando meeting don't your pochi in batch meeting do ya pochi te chor jegi in this only jegi la gres then no samlo le chi pa yore samlo te ngare samgum chor pa kyo bon ro samlo ku pan ri chiona che samlo kyambo chi le jegi in bezi te jegi in la yung gres so za ngat chomban ro chi zer le yo na sharni pombo tan semli losse nga chi yo na katina shar de yores o te sam bi samlo te jiktare is in love de gor te zaran cho de zare
so to give an example to contemplate more on this self jikta this false view of the transitory collection, this self-grasping attitude. Geshe describes it more like we could think of the self as a business person, and the body and the mind as things that are for sale. And if there's someone, not very good looking, they would, be willing maybe to, if it would be possible to change their body for become more handsome, to change their, body with a more beautiful person. Or likewise, if someone is not so smart, and there would be the possibility to exchange one's mind with the mind of someone really smart and intelligent, then one would be ready and willing to do that. But still, there's still this notion of me and mine, which that's the self-grasping.
Nazi ni tili lokha chi nga so saulo tang de ndo ata ina tini chi mundo asa samro chi ngal te pendo ya poji mundo
sima namde nang
no namde no tala sa chi na yorite
nga zupodang kasa zupodang
Zupo tang semba tang ba jen ke chongban de chi so so
yeah,
dia.
so it's also something that's being described or mentioned in valid Sivananda Pramanavartika, on valid cognition, where it speaks about this self being supposedly self as being different from body and mind.
Do you
have any questions? Anybody online? If there are no questions, we maybe can leave it at this. Probably no question. Then we'll leave it here. Thank you. See you later. Thank you.
Yeah.